The man who changed the world by refusing to be ordinary, Steve Jobs, Walter Isaacson. What does it take to change the world? Talent? Hard work? Luck? Walter Isaacson Steve Jobs suggests something far more complicated. To change the world, you often need obsession. Not ordinary ambition, not reasonable discipline, obsession. This biography does not present Steve Jobs as a perfect hero. In fact, one of the reasons the book is so powerful is that it refuses to simplify him. Isaacson portrays him as visionary, brilliant, demanding, often difficult, and relentlessly driven by perfection. The story begins with contradiction. Steve Jobs is adopted as a child, and this early fact quietly shapes much of his inner world. On one side, it gives him a deep sense of being chosen. On the other, it plants an enduring tension around identity, belonging, and control. Even as a young man, Jobs does not fit traditional structures. He is not interested in following conventional rules. College does not hold him for long. Instead, he becomes fascinated by the intersection of technology, design, and human experience. This intersection becomes the defining theme of his life. Jobs does not see computers as machines. He sees them as extensions of human creativity. That difference in perspective changes everything. The early Apple story has already become legend. In a garage, together with Steve Wozniak, Jobs helps build what will become one of the most influential companies in history. The biography covers this early Apple phase extensively, from the garage years to the Macintosh era. But what makes Isaacson's version compelling is that he focuses not only on the company, but on Jobs' way of thinking. Jobs is obsessed with simplicity. Not simplicity as minimalism alone, simplicity as clarity. Every product must feel inevitable. Every button must justify its existence. Every design decision must serve elegance and function. This obsession with perfection becomes both his greatest strength and one of his most difficult personal flaws. He pushes people beyond what they believe possible, sometimes through inspiration, sometimes through fear. The book repeatedly returns to what colleagues called his reality distortion field, his ability to convince people that impossible deadlines and seemingly absurd standards could somehow be achieved. This creates one of the most fascinating tensions in the biography. Was Jobs a genius leader, or a brutally difficult human being? Isaacson suggests both are true. Then comes one of the most dramatic turns in the story. Jobs is forced out of Apple. The company he helped create no longer wants him. For most people, this would be the defining failure of a lifetime. But for Jobs, it becomes reinvention. This is where the biography becomes deeply inspirational. Failure does not end the story. It redirects it. Jobs builds next. He acquires Pixar, and in doing so, he helps revolutionize another industry entirely, animated film. The biography explicitly frames him as a figure who transformed multiple industries, from personal computing to animated movies, music, phones, and publishing. This phase is critical because it proves that his vision was never limited to one company. His true gift is not management. It is product imagination. He sees the future earlier than most people. Eventually, Jobs returns to Apple, and this return feels almost cinematic. The fallen founder comes back to rescue the company. This is where the story accelerates into legacy. The iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, the iPad. Each product is more than a device. Each one changes human behavior. This is one of the strongest themes in Isaacson's biography. Jobs believed innovation happens at the intersection of technology and the liberal arts. He does not merely build products. He builds experiences, emotion, identity, a relationship between people and technology. The book also does not shy away from his personal flaws. His intensity often damages relationships. His perfectionism crosses into cruelty. His need for control affects both family and colleagues. This complexity is precisely what makes the biography feel real. Greatness rarely arrives in simple packaging. By the final part of the story, Jobs is facing illness. And the biography takes on an entirely different emotional weight. Legacy becomes central. What remains after the person is gone? For Jobs, the answer is not only products. It is a philosophy. That products should be beautiful. That standards should be impossibly high. That creativity and technology should never be separated. By the end, Steve Jobs leaves the viewer with a powerful realization. The people who change the world are often the ones who refuse to accept the world as it is. Sometimes that refusal looks like genius. Sometimes it looks like obsession. Sometimes it looks like both. And perhaps that is what Walter Isaacson captures best. Steve Jobs was not easy to admire, but he was impossible to ignore.